Welcome to Shasikara's Astrological series. This is a presentation about year 2022 annual predictions. In the first part, I did explain in general the various planetary combinations of the transit planets in the year 2022 and which transit planets are co-joining and in which house are they co-joining. In the second part of the series of this year 2022 sidereal ephemeris series, I had taken the example of one of the Bollywood famous hero Shah Rukh Khan, and the title was Bollywood Badshah Re-Entry in 2022. And I used Shah Rukh Khan's birth chart and analyzed how his career will be in the year 2022 based upon the Vimsottari dasa system and the transit planets in the year 2022. That was the second part. In the third part, I'm going to take the example of another Bollywood hero, Salman Khan, and uh, I'm going to explain how his in the year 2022, how his career will be. The reason I have picked the Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan is because they both of them are going through Sade Shani. And when the native is going through Sade Shani and the transit planets are not in one particular house for the whole calendar year, there will be a lot of unexpected events and challenges for the native. So I want to explain, like, if people have this type of scenarios in their astrological chart, how would their life will be. I'm hoping that you will like this presentation, this part too, and I will try to put few more examples so that the more the examples I put for the year 2022, it will be more easy for you to understand the way I predict the annual analysis. And thank you very much. I hope you'll enjoy this video. I went to the Astro Data Bank. That is the website which I rely a lot on to get the exact date and time of birth for any celebrity or a politician or any other famous person. And when I went over there, I came to know that the native was born on 27th December 1965 in Indore, India, and the time of birth was at 10:45 a.m. Indian Standard Time. And since the rating was A rated, I did consider this as my the birth details for this particular native, and I generated the chart using the JHora software, and that's the chart which I'm going to analyze for this presentation. So in the year 2022, I just went to the Bollywood movie review website and came to know that there are 4 movies that are supposed to be released in the year. 3 of them in the year 2022 and 1 is in 2021 on 26th November. Today is 18th November. So by the time I post this presentation, I don't know whether the movie will be released or not, but I'm going to concentrate on the impact on the remaining 3 movies that are scheduled in the year for the year 2022. And what I'm trying to see here is how far his chart is going to have an impact on these 3 movies that are scheduled in the year 2022. As I said earlier, for this particular native, the time of birth was taken as 2:30 p.m. in Indian Standard Time, the place of birth as Indore, and the date of birth as 27th December 1965. When I generated the birth chart using JHora software, the very first thing that I noticed is that there are 2 planets that are in Rashi Sandhi, Moon and Jupiter. The moon indicates mind, so that what you call the moon not being stable indicates that the mind for this particular native is not stable. So it is fickle minded or something like that. That is called as where the native will have multiple thoughts, one time in a positive way, the other time in a negative way. So something similar to that, because the moon is in a Rashi Sandhi. The next important thing to see is Jupiter is also in Rashi Sandhi. Jupiter is the 9th house lord and the 12th house lord from Rashi Lagna, and the 2nd house lord and the 11th house lord from Chandra Lagna. So the 9th house lord is Bhagyasthanadipati and the 12th house lord is Mokshasthanamo, or that's fine. And then when you look from the Chandra Lagna, the 2nd house Dhanasthanadipati and the 11th house Labhasthanadipati. So Jupiter, because the Jupiter is in Rasi Sandhi, the important thing that one need to know just by looking at the chart from a high level is that the wealth, the earnings are not fixed. It's like a there will be a lot of ups and downs for this particular native when it comes to earnings or wealth, and that's what you'll be noticing it in here. And now coming to the Vimsottari dasa, the native Saturn Mahadasa started in 2003 August, and it's all the way till 2022 August. That means for the first 8 months in the year 2022, the native will go through the Saturn Mahadasa, and then September through December, the native will go through Mercury Mahadasa. So the remaining 4 months, it will be Mercury Mahadasa. So the most important thing that we have to look here is the Saturn Mahadasa. It is the end, the last phase of Saturn Mahadasa. And when you look at the transit Saturn, which entered Capricorn in December 2019, indicates that the native Sade Shani started in December 2019. So right now the native is going through the first phase of Sade Shani. This is the reason why I took this particular native's chart as a second example. The first example being Shah Rukh Khan, who is also going through I think the first phase of Sade Shani. Yeah, the first phase of Sade Shani. So it's very important, these two charts, to analyze it for the year 2022, because they are going through Sade Shani, and transit Saturn is in the whole year. Transit Saturn is going to be residing in its own house. So the impact, and Saturn Mahadasa is running for this particular native. So the impact will be extremely noticeable with respect to the planet Saturn. So we have to go through in detail to see how that Saturn is going to have an impact for this particular native, especially in the year 2022. We have seen the impact for his career with respect to his career in the year 2020 when his Sade Shani began, and then in the year 2021, that is the current year, this is November 2021. So we have seen how difficult it is, that none of the movies had been released, or even anything has released that didn't bring up enough financial gains to the native, or wealth, or acquired enough wealth. So these are all the things that we have noticed. It has been noticed in the year 2020 and 2021. So let me go in detail to look at how it will be in the year 2022. Let me start going further deep into the Saturn Mahadasa, especially for the year 2022. If you see here, the Saturn Mahadasa, during the Saturn Mahadasa, Jupiter Antardasa is started in February of 2020, and it goes all the way till August of 2022. So based upon the way the things happened in 2020 and 2021, looks like the Jupiter Antardasa is completely chaotic for this particular native. So let me first go and see what's Jupiter's role here for creating so much of chaos. We know that the Saturn Mahadasa is going on, and we also know that the native is going through the first phase of Sade Shani. So let's go and look at the Jupiter role. From natal moon, Jupiter is the 2nd and the 11th house lord, Dhanasthanadipati, Kutumbasthanadipati, and Labhasthanadipati. So this just tells you that when a native is going through Sade Shani, and Saturn Mahadasa is running unfortunately during that period, then the Antardasa, whatever the planet Antardasa is, the houses that that planet owns will be unstable and chaotic. That's exactly what we are seeing here for this particular native, because of the issues that has happened in his career and other social and economic issues in the country. The natives, most of his movies were not released that much, so looks like the Dhanasthanamo and Labhasthanamo had major impact for this particular native starting 2020 February. Now let's go and look all the way till oh, by the way, from natal moon, natal Jupiter is in the fifth house. Fifth house, it's arts and entertainment. That's exactly what his profession is. And the natal Jupiter is directly looking at the 11th house, which is also the Bhagyasthanma from Rashi Lagna. So this clearly tells you that when it, whatever the native's profession is, that profession is going to have an impact because of the planets Antardasa under Saturn Mahadasa and the native being going through the Sade Shani, first phase of Sade Shani. So keeping that in mind, let's go and see in 2022 the moon Pratyantara Dasa is in January and February of 2022. Actually, it will start in 2021 November, so very soon it's going to start. So what exactly is going to happen is a little bit difficult and challenging to predict, but from a mental perspective, there will be some sort of mental stress, mental agony, frustrations. The native will be going through it, especially all these mental stress and frustrations. All these are directly related to Dhanasthanama and Labhasthanama, and that is something that we cannot tell at this point. At least I don't know. If I read anything in the newspapers, then I will update in my YouTube channel. And the next thing what we have to do is, after the moon Mahadasa is, moon Pratyantara Dasa is done, the next one is Mars. This is the very important thing, because Mars, during the Mars Pratyantara Dasa, that is from in February, March and April of 2022, Mars, during that Mars Pratyantara Dasa, Mars is in the 12th house from natal moon and 10th house from Rashi Lagna, and that's exactly where Transit Saturn is also residing. And Transit Saturn is also co-joining with natal Mars and natal Venus. Natal Venus is the second house lord, Dhanasthana Adhipati. And from moon, natal Venus is the fourth house lord, home life environment, Sukhasthanamo. And unfortunately, natal Venus, 11, 10 and 9. Unfortunately, natal Venus is the 9th house lord from natal moon. So that is Bhagyasam. So either of the way, whether you look from any perspective, as soon as Transit Saturn entered Capricorn, then and as soon as the Sade Shani has begun, a lot of issues pertaining to earnings, wealth and financial gains, a lot of issues might have got created, and that will get amplified again in February, March and April of 2022, especially because of the NATO's decisions that the NATO had made in from November of 2021 till February of 2022, when the moon Pratyantara Dasa is running, whatever the decisions that the NATO has made, that because of those decisions which are either 100% wrong or partially wrong, will have an impact on his financial gains and wealth and earnings in February, March and April of 2022. Exactly during this period when Mars Pratyantara Dasa is running, Transit Rahu will enter Aries. That is in somewhere in March, I think. Somewhere in March Transit Rahu will enter. I have to check it out. No, not in March. It's a long way. Okay. Let's go and see what happens. The next one is from April till April till August of 2022. If you look at it, from April till August of 2022, Rahu Pratyantara Dasa is running, and if you can see it, Rahu Pratyantara Dasa is all the way all the way till what is it called? Oh man, all the way till August of 2024. Oh sure, yep. And yeah, by the by, Transit Rahu enters Aries on 17th of March, exactly when Mars Pratyantra Dasa is running. Transit Rahu is entering Aries. That's owned by Mars. So, which is the Rashi Lagna for the native and the third house from Chandra Lagna. Then remember, natal Saturn's third aspect is already on Aries, and now when Transit Rahu enters Aries in March, this natal Saturn's third aspect will be on that Transit Rahu. Mars Pratitara Dasa is running. Mars is in the 12th house from Chandra Lagna, and Mars is the 9th house lord from Chandra Lagna. Oh my god. Okay. A lot of things. It's very complicated, but one thing is for sure is the native will have tough time in February and March and April of 2022. That is directly related to Bhagyasthanamu, Dhanasthanamu and Labhasthanamu. And that will result in the next 4 months from April till August some ups and downs for this particular native. This is according to Vimsottari Dasa. The good thing for this particular native is in the year 2022 is that somewhere from September of 2022 Saturn Mahadasa ends and Mercury Mahadasa begins. This is a very good positive for this particular native. So all the problems that the native has gone through until August of 2022, well, slowly those are gone. Even though the Sade Shani is still running for this particular native, at least the native Saturn Mahadasa is completed, so at least he will be a little bit happy that there will be some sort of happiness and comfortable mental stability from September of 2022. So let's go and see the Mercury. What is the role of Mercury here? If you look at it from Rashi Lagna, Mercury is the third and sixth house lord residing in the 8th house. That's it. That's a negative for this particular person. Third and sixth house lord residing in the 8th house is not a good sign. So the Mahadasa will be moderate. And now from Chandra Lagna, Mercury is the 5th house lord, 6th, 7th, and again 8th house lord. The 5th house lord is arts and entertainment, and because it's a Mercury, so that might be a little bit positive for him, but it's not that positive like I thought it would be. And then when you look at it, natal Mercury is having a direct aspect from natal Rahu. So whatever that ups and downs that can happen will be happening during that time. So in the Mercury Mahadasa, the Mercury Antaradasa is from August 2022 till 25th of January, 2025 January. And if I go further down to Pratyantara Dasa, this is very important. From September till December, those 4 months, it is the Mercury Mahadasa, Mercury Antaradasa and Mercury Pratyantara Dasa. Mercury being, you can say it as speech and recognition, or sometimes Mercury can also be considered as banking and business, trading, all those things when you think about from a professional perspective. So something is, because it's the 8th house lord, something will get revealed in regard to this particular native, and I'm more inclined to say that will be exactly 1 year from now. That means in November of 2022 and December of 2022, exactly from 1 year from now, this Mercury Mahadasa, Mercury Antardasa, Mercury Pratantra Dasa, but Rahu Sukshmantra Dasa and Saturn Sukshmantra Dasa, these are the two time periods, Sukshmantra Dasas, that makes me think that, because the native is going to Sade Shani, makes me think that something related to trading or financing, banking, anything that deals with financial transactions, trading or transactions, some secrets will be revealed during that time. November of 2022, December of 2022. 2022. So let me wait and see what exactly might happen at that time. Let me now start looking at the sidereal ephemeris for the transit planets on a month by month basis in the year 2022. The very first thing, on 15th of January 2022, transit Sun will enter Capricorn, that is Makara Sankranti starts somewhere there on 15th of January, that's the Makara Sankranti day. So at that time, all the way till February 12th, that means almost 1 month, transit Sun is going to be in Capricorn. Remember, at that time, Sun and Mercury, they both go at the same speed. So you can say Sun, Mercury and transit Saturn. All the three transit planets are going to be in Capricorn during that 1 month period. So let's go and see what natal planets that does these three transit planets are going to co-join with. In Capricorn, natal Venus and natal Mars are residing for this particular native. So transit Sun, transit Mercury and transit Saturn, all the three are going to co-join with the natal Venus and natal Mars for that 1 month period. So the question comes is, when they join, what could be the impact? First of all, we know that Venus from Chandra Lagna, Venus is the fourth house lord, Sukhasthanadipati, and Venus is the 9th house lord, Bhagyasthanamo. So the very first thing that happens is some fluctuation regarding home life environment, and Bhagyasthanamo means, I should say it as wealth or earnings, I don't know, one of those two. And then because Saturn, and remember from moon, natal moon, Sun is the 7th house lord. 7th house deals with the businesses, spouse, Kalatrasthanamo, and short-term travels. Whenever transit Sun enters Capricorn in Makara period, and if it touches transit Saturn at that time, there will be some sort of a chaos for that particular native, depending upon the house where it touched. What is the house Capricorn is? In 2020, when transit Sun touched transit Saturn here in the same house in January of 2020, because of the COVID, a lot of his professionally there was a halt that lasted for a month, and then again in 2021 January that scenario has repeated, and now the same scenario will be repeated even in 2022 January. That means professionally he will be almost be on hold, unable to do anything, that when it comes to profession, and the impact will be on his earnings or wealth, one of those two or both of them. Now let's go and look at Vimsottari dasa exactly in this 1 month period. If you see in this 1 month period, the Sukshmantara dasa is what very important. First of all, Saturn Mahadasa, Jupiter Antardasa are complicated. Moon Pratyantara dasa is further complicates it. So the native, like I said earlier, the native will be having will be making decisions that are not 100% profitable, or I should say in this way is more than 50% risky with respect to finances, financial earnings, wealth, or wealth accumulation, or salary earnings or anything like that. And the Sukshmantara dasa for Saturn, Sukshmantara dasa is on 29th of December all the way till 10th of January. So fortunately, Sun did not enter Capricorn during that time. So Saturn Sukshmantara dasa, he survived. And the next thing is Mercury Sukshmantara dasa. When Mercury Sukshmantara dasa comes, the Sun will be entered 5 days before the Mercury Sukshmantara dasa. So because Mercury is the 5th house lord and the 8th house lord, that 5 days the native will see some sort of a uncomfortable things pertaining to his speech recognition, financial matters, banking, financial transactions, something related to banking or trading or anything that deals with financial transactions. He will see some sort of an uncomfortable period.
And the same uncomfortable period will be seen again from 24th of January till February 6th of 2022. This is very important here because Venus is from natal moon. Venus is the 4th house lord and 9th house lord. So any uncomfortable is not will make the native mentally stressful, and that might create some sort of agony in his mind and frustrations and all other stuffs that is related to when the mind is very much stressful. What are the other things that can happen? Those are all the things that are possible for this particular native during this period. The next period that one needs to look at least is the from 27th February all the way till 7th of April. This is very important here. If you look at it, transit Mars and transit Saturn, they both are co-joining in Capricorn. So now you have already have natal Mars residing there, and transit Saturn is already residing there. Now transit Mars is going to co-join with this particular in this particular house, and that is exactly what the issue will be, because we know the Mars is the 10th house lord from Rashi, from Chandra Lagna, and also the 3rd house lord too, and it is residing in the 12th house. 12th house is unexpected expenditures. So when the 10th house lord is residing in 12th house unexpected expenditures, the natal and transit Mars are residing there, co-joined with the 4th and the 9th house lord Venus, and transit Saturn. The 12th house lord itself is Saturn, and the native is going to Sade Shani. A lot of unexpected expenditures can be identified. The native will come across a lot of unexpected expenditures, and the critical part here to say is from 17th of March, exactly on that day, transit Rahu will enter Aries. That means from Capricorn, both natal Mars and transit Mars, they're both Mars 4th aspect is on Aries. That's exactly where transit Rahu is going to enter on 17th of March. So what exactly is going to happen, that unexpected expenditure, when I say unexpected expenditure, that's exactly the native is going to see somewhere in the month of March, when Rahu is about to enter or already entered. That's the reason why it is called unexpected expenditure, and Rahu is the guy who is going to give the native a big shock when it comes to that unexpected expenditure. So let's go and look at, like from the Vimsottari dasa point of view, what is going on. From the Vimsottari dasa point of view, unfortunately, it is the Mars Pratyantara dasa that is running from 10th of February till April 4th. So that means when transit Mars and transit Saturn are co-joined in Capricorn, Saturn Mahadasa is running and Mars Pratyantara dasa is running. Oh, sorry, so bad. Okay, so now moving forward, somewhere between 28th of February till 8th of March, or again from 19th of March, all the way from 19th of March all the way till 28th of March. So that's the time when this native, when Saturn Sukshmantara Dasa or Venus Sukshmantara Dasa comes into picture, that's the time when the native will come across that unexpected expenditure, because transit Rahu will be there in Aries, natal, and transit Mars 4th aspect is on Aries. So let's wait and see what exactly that could be. The next important thing that I would talk about is Mars and Saturn moving into Aquarius. The most important thing here in the year of 2022 is somewhere in month of April, last 2 days of April, 29th, 30th of April, transit Saturn will go into Aquarius, stay there for May and June, 2 months, and then come back to Capricorn. So when transit Saturn enters Aquarius, the native will be having, sorry, it is going to touch natal moon and natal Saturn there. That means the native is going to have a preview of the second phase of Sade Shani. Right now he is going to the first phase of Sade Shani. The second phase of Sade Shani, the actual second phase of Sade Shani, he will see somewhere from January of 2023. But in the month of May and June of 2022, he will see the preview how it will look like. When Sade Shani second phase begins for 2.5 years, how the life will be, he will have a preview in the month of May and June of 2022. Unfortunately, that's the time when the NATO's second phase of Sade Shani preview is going on. If you look at his Vimsottari dasa, it is the Rahu Pratyantara dasa that is running. And Rahu's Pratyantara dasa is running, and transit Rahu will be in Aries at that time. And both natal and Saturn, natal and transit Saturn's third aspect will be on transit Rahu in Aries. Earlier, natal Mars and natal transit Mars fourth aspect is on Aries, and when Mars and Saturn moves to Capricorn, natal Saturn and transit Saturn's third aspect will be on Aries, where Rahu is residing. Already because of transit Mars and natal Mars, the fourth aspect on transit Rahu, when transit Rahu enters Aries in March, already some sort of unexpected expenditures the native will incur it. And again, that is in March, again the native will incur some sort of a unstable, unexpected expenditures, or some sort of a financial obligations or complications will occur in the month of May or June of 2022. That's because both natal and transit Saturn's third aspect is on Rahu, transit Rahu, and since it is the second phase of Sade Shani and moon is being there, that 2 months the native will be having a unbearable mental stress. Yes, it's so difficult for the native to cope up with the stress that the native is going through mentally, not physically. It's all mental stress. The whole Sade Shani period is deals with the second phase of Sade Shani period completely deals with the mental stress only. The first phase is unexpected expenditures or hospitalization. The second phase is mental stress for the native. So that's what the native will be going through. And unfortunately, you can see that on May 14th till June of 5th of June, the native has what do you call, because of the Saturn Sukshmantara Dasa, 14th of May till 5th of June is something that one needs to keep an eye on. The native has to keep an eye on his financials, earnings, and above all home life environment. So in the month of end of June, that is June 26th of 2022, transit Mars will leave a Pisces and enter Aries, its own house. So the transit Mars will be in Aries, and exactly at that time transit Rahu is already residing there. That means from June 27th all the way till, I should say it as July of 2022. I should say you should go further down too, but I stopped it there for some reason. But it should be all the way, one second, let me see, it should be all the way till June, July, oh, August, till August, 10th August, all the way till 10th August, the transit Mars is going to co-join with transit Rahu. So that's the time when natal Saturn's third aspect will be now on transit Rahu and transit Mars in the third house from Rashi Lagna, from Chandra Lagna, and Lagna, the first house from Rashi Lagna. Remember, his Lagnadipati is Mars. So something, because Rahu and Mars are co-joined, and Mars is a Lagnadipati, and the 11th house lord from Rashi Lagna, 11th house, 10th and 11th house lord Saturn is having a third aspect on it. It's a little bit surprising to see what major change will be in the native's life between 27th of June and August 10th, 2022. Finally, let me conclude this presentation for the year 2022 side analysis for this particular native. The first and the foremost thing I would say is that the native will still be going through the first phase of Sade Shani for the whole year of 2022. So, and because the Saturn Mahadasa is until August of 2022, the native will see a lot of disturbances in his wealth, earnings, and some way or the other that events that are related to his home life environment. And then when the Mercury Mahadasa begins in September of 2022, because of these transit planets positions, even though the Mahadasa is not, Saturn Mahadasa has completed, Mercury from one way or the other is the 8th house lord, whether you look from the Rashi Lagna or the Chandra Lagna. Because of that reason, see, remember the 8th house lord Mahadasa is not at all good for any native. Because of that reason, and Mercury is mostly relates to speech, financial transactions, specifically with respect to banking or trading banking sector or a trading sector, somewhere of those financial industries, some sort of secrets will be revealed, Mercury being the 8th house lord, and that would not make this particular native feel happy at all. And in the month of May or June of 2022, both in May and June of 2022, transit Saturn will be entering Aquarius. That means the native is going to have a preview of the second phase of Sade Shani. Second phase of Sade Shani generally indicates that that any native who is going through the second phase of Sade Shani will have mental stress, mental agony, frustrations, and sometimes they even consider and say the frustrations and all this stress results into aggression too. So the native will be going through these type of mental disturbances in the month of May and June of 2022. These are my predictions and I don't guarantee it. This is my disclaimer too. So please use whatever the predictions that I have done is to the best of my astrological knowledge, and these are not guaranteed, and please use this video for education.
Disclaimer. Last updated May 29, 2020. Interpretation and definitions. Interpretation. The words of which the initial letter is capitalized have meanings defined under the following conditions. The following definitions shall have the same meaning regardless of whether they appear in singular or in plural. Definitions. For the purposes of this disclaimer, company last updated as either the 29th 2020 or are in this cookie's policy. Interpretation refers to definitions. Astrological interpretation. The words in which the initial letter is capitalized or the company's defined under the following conditions on behalf of which such individual is accessing or using meaning regardless of whether they appear in singular or in plural. Application means the software program provided by the company downloaded by you on any electronic device named referred to as either the Astrological series, us or are in this service refers to the application to Astrological series. The information contained on the individual is for general information purposes the company only or other legal entity on behalf of no responsibility for errors or omissions in the contents of the service as applicable. In no event shall the company be liable for any program provided by the company downloaded by you on any electronic device names or any damages whatsoever, whether in an action of service refers to the application or other tort. Arising out of or in connection with the use contained on the service or the contents of the general information purposes. The company reserves the right to make additions, assumes no responsibility or modifications or omissions in the contents of this at any time without prior notice. Shall the company be liable for any has been created with the help of the disclaimer generator, consequential, or incidental damages or any damages the service is free of viruses or other harmful components, negligence or external links arising out of or in connection with the use of the service or the contents of the service that are not provided or reserves the right to make any way affiliated with the company or modifications to the contents that the company does not guarantee the accuracy and relevance. This disclaimer has been created with the help of information on these external websites. The company does not warrant that the service is free of viruses or other harmful given by the service is for general guidance on matters of interest only. The service even if the company takes every precaution to ensure that the content provided or maintained current or in any way affiliated with the company. Plus, please note that the company does not guarantee the regulations, relevance, there may be timeliness, omissions, or completeness of any information on these external web service. Errors and omissions. The company is not responsible for any errors or omissions given by the service for general guidance on matters of interest only. Fair use disclaimer. Even if the company takes every precaution to ensure the content of the service has not always been specifically authorized by the copyright owner. Given the changing nature of making such material available for criticism, there may be delays, news reporting, or inaccuracies in the information contained on the service. The company believes this constitutes a fair use of any such copyrighted material the results provided for in Section 107 of the United States copyright law. The company may use copyrighted material which has not always been specifically authorized by the copyright owner. You must obtain permission from the copyright such material available for criticism. Disclaimer. News reporting. The service may contain views and opinions which are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy of any such copyrighted material as provided for in Section 107 of the United States copyright law. If you wish to use copyrighted material from the service for your own purposes that go beyond responsibility, you must obtain permission from the copyright or litigation that results from something written in or as a direct result of something written in a comment and opinions which are those of the authors and do not necessarily published by official policy or position of any other comment for any reason whatsoever. Organization, employer, responsibility including the company. The information comments published is provided with the understanding that the company is not herein engaged in rendering legal liability and blame for any libel or litigation that results from something written in or as a direct result of something written in as a substitute for consultation. The company is not liable for any comment published by users and reserve the right to delete any comment for any reason whatsoever or its suppliers. No responsibility for any special incidental, the information on the service or consequential damages whatsoever arising is not herein engaged with your access or use or inability to access or use the service, other professional advice at your own risk. Disclaimer. As such, all information in the service is provided consultation with no guarantee of completeness, legal or other competent advisors, or the results obtained from the use of this information, and without warranty of any kind, incidental, express, indirect, or consequential damages whatsoever arising out of or in connection with your access or use or particular purpose to access or use the company will not be liable to you or anyone else for any decision made or action taken in reliance on the information given by the service, no guarantee of any consequential, accuracy, or similar damages, or the result obtained from the possibility of such damages, and without warranty of any kind. Express if you have any questions about this disclaimer, but not limited to warranties as performance by email merchantability and fitness for a particular purpose. The company will not be liable to you or anyone else for any decision made or action taken in reliance on the information given by the service or for any consequential, special or similar damages, even if advised of the possibility of such damages. Contact us. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, you can contact us